Welcome, everyone. Welcome to ThursdAI. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with weights and biases from CoreWeave, and we have a very special show for you today. Today is April 2nd. ThursdAI is the weekly news, the highest density weekly news show going live on X and YouTube. So we're live currently on Twitter Spaces, live on YouTube, and even LinkedIn. Hey, LinkedIn folks. Together with me, I have co-hosts, and we're gonna have a little bit of a different format today. Most co-hosts are on Twitter Space. I'm gonna wave, and then I'm gonna ask them to unmute there, and then we'll test out how this is gonna work. I'm gonna add them to the show here as well, but mostly we're gonna unmute on X and talk on X. Let's see if that works. We'll start with Wolfram. Wolfram, can you say hi to the folks?
Hello, everyone. Nice to be focused on X for once. Back to the roots, right?
Yes, I think there's a lot of new folks here. A lot of new folks are listening on the Twitter Space, and so the show started with just a bunch of us talking on Twitter Spaces, discussing this week's news. And since then, we migrated to YouTube. We're now live. I can pin this to the top of the space. So, guys, if you want to follow us on the video, you'd be able to. So, we're streaming on Twitter Spaces. But definitely back to the roots, because this is how we started. We started with the Twitter Space. And recently, we started doing after ThursdAI stuff as well. So maybe that's going to happen. Want to hear from LDJ. LDJ, you're on stage also. Can you unmute on Twitter Space and say hi to the folks?
Hello, everybody. Today's a good day. It's been a good week. We'll cover some amazing news today.
We're gonna have a lot to talk about, definitely. And I know we're also a little bit. We're starting a little bit later today, just because of the technical stuff that we're trying to sort out. Let's hear from Yam Peleg. Yam, can you say hi to the folks? Not on Twitter.
So.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. Getting there. Hearing an echo, but we're getting there.
Yam, you're getting an echo? It was good for everybody else, I think.
Yeah, just let me check.
Yeah, I think it's StreamYard. I think you need to mute StreamYard. We're going to add Ryan Carson here as well. Ryan, you're welcome to hop on the Twitter Space and request access. Meanwhile, I will say hi to many of you who joined. Many of you probably saw the Claude Code tweet and saw the space from there. If that's you, if you never heard of us before, you never joined our Twitter Spaces before, I would love for you to go to the bottom right where it says it's right now it's 11 on the Twitter Spaces, bottom right, kind of like purple pill, and just give us a comment and say, hey, I never heard of you before, but I'm coming through because of that Claude Code explosion. A lot has happened in the world of AI for the past week since last we covered it. I think the main thing we're going to cover very, very soon. Meanwhile, we have Sigrid Jean with us as well. Sigrid, can you unmute on Twitter Spaces and say hi to the folks? Sigrid, we need you to unmute if possible. I cannot hear Sigrid. Can you guys hear Sigrid?
I cannot hear him either.
Alrighty. We'll figure this out. We will definitely figure this out. Hopefully Sigrid can hear me. Alrighty. So I see a bunch of comments here. I see a lot of folks are joining as new. Welcome. I will tell you a little bit about ThursdAI while we sort Sigrid's microphone out. So ThursdAI is a weekly Twitter Space YouTube video live stream that we've been doing for over 3 years now, and we're focusing on news, everything that happened from the last week. We often have over thousands of people join across our live streams. This one's a little bit special because the focus here is on Twitter Space. And also we have a bunch of guests from different labs. Today, by the way, we're going to have one such guest, a surprise guest. I guess we can say the name of the guest without saying what's going to be happening, right? So Omar Stancivero from Google DeepMind, developer experience person from Google DeepMind, is going to join us. I see other folks who used to be guests on the show. I see Nader the Bit from Cognition. Shout out to Nader. I see Jameson. I see a bunch of folks here on Twitter Space. This is a great crowd. Meanwhile, we'll do one more test with Sigrid. He rejoined, and then I want to hear from Yam on Twitter. From Ryan on Twitter Space. Ryan, let's see if we can hear you. If folks can see who that you're here.
All right, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, sir.
Hello, friends.
This is great. We haven't done this in a while, so folks on YouTube, please bear with us. We're trying to like juggle a lot of balls, but I think it's time for us to get into the news. If one of my co-hosts can hop on the chat with Sigrid and try to figure with them, and I will start with just saying we usually start the show with one thing in AI. We asked the folks here in the comments to reply to us and say what is the one thing in AI that we must cover. Everybody says Claude Code. Everybody says Claude Code because, folks, this week, as Space Uncle Elon Musk put it, Anthropic is now more open than OpenAI. I mean, we laugh, but it's an awful thing. So let me just like cover this. Claude Code source code wasn't leaked necessarily. It was mistakenly released by a internal process, according to Boris Cherny from Claude Code, and then somebody rebuilt the whole source code from Claude Code, maybe the fastest 1 billion side hustle harness thing in history of AI, and everybody was like, this is the only thing everybody could talk about for a while. And so we're gonna definitely discuss this. But besides this, there's a ton of news this week. Just a lot of news, including news from just today. So the way we usually start the show is we banter for a little bit. Would love to hear from you guys. What is the most important thing? But I think it's good for us to start with the TLDR, as we do want to try and get Sigrid to speak with us. Sigrid, please try now, if possible, on Twitter Spaces, and if not, we're going to get you on StreamYard, and that's it. Let's give you one more try, Sigrid. So I can hear him. I don't know if you folks can, probably not. But what I will say is that SpaceX is about to IPO. SpaceX has recently bought XAI and X, right? So Twitter is about to IPO again, and Twitter Spaces is still not sold. There's still problems with Twitter Spaces, despite it going to be a public company. All right, we have quite a few folks here. I think it's time for us to do the TLDR and just run through everything that we have to cover, and then we'll try to get Sigrid back. And if not, we'll just tell you what's going on. But basically, I really want to talk with him specifically because they're the fastest GitHub repo to cross 100,000 stars, faster than OpenClaw since a few last 3 days. And I really want to talk to them and like hear what's that about, right? But I would love to for folks to coordinate this behind the scenes. Let's do it here. Let's talk about everything that happened this week besides Claude Code leak, which we can talk about for 2 hours. I think just that, but we won't. TLDR, let's go. Alrighty, folks, here is the TLDR, the section of the show where we tell you about everything that happened this week so that you don't have to stay with us for 2.5 hours. Sigrid, I think you're coming through. Say hi. Unmute and say hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can finally hear you. Yes, let's go.
Hello.
Welcome. I think there's some connection issues with you, but
I'm in the outside. So hello, yeah.
Yeah, Sigrid, we're gonna do the TLDR section where we talk about everything that happened, and then we're gonna chat with you, okay? But also, I would suggest you find a stable connection because it does not sound like it's coming through very well.
He's going through a tunnel.
Yeah. Well, if you guys can text them in our group chat and then just tell them that like we heard them a little bit like disconnecting, but generally heard them, so that's a good thing. I will start this again because hey, this is a podcast recording. Hey folks, welcome to the TLDR. Today is Thursday, April 2nd. Can you believe it's April? Can you fucking believe we're in Q2 of 2026 and a lot of stuff is happening. So this is the TLDR. This is the section where we cover everything that happened in the world of AI for the past week. Your host today is Alex Volkov from Weights and Biases CoreWeave. I represent huge shout out to Weights and Biases CoreWeave for letting us do the show. Shout out Weights and Biases. With me, co-host Wolf from Ravenwolf, Jan Pelek, LDJ and Ryan Carson. Our usual co-host Nistan is somewhere not to be found. Hopefully he'll join later. The guests today, we're gonna have Sigrid, Jin, and Bellman from the creators of Claude Code, the fastest GitHub repo to reach 100,000 stars, faster than OpenClaw. What's up? Let's go. And we're also gonna have a surprise guest. I can say who he is. We're gonna have Omar Sansivero, our friend from before, used to be the chief llama officer at Hugging Face, and for the past, I think, a few years now at developer experience in Google DeepMind, to come with breaking news that's gonna happen in an hour. So please stay with us. Omar Sansivero is gonna be here, and let's run through this week's huge thing. So first of all, obviously, again, this is the reason why most of you are here. Claude Code, entire 512,000 lines source code accidentally leaked via NPM. We're gonna have to cover this. You seem like you have a comment. Please unmute on Nexus Space and tell me.
Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go. Let's go.
Wow, I love it.
Let's fucking go.
I love the energy, folks. If this is why you're here on Twitter Space, give us like a thumbs up or a heart or something, because this is something that many people have been waiting for. I'm gonna hear from Yam and definitely from Sigrid and some other folks why. But also, just before that, and I think the thing that still afflicts all of us is that Claude Code's session gate. We're gonna name it session gate. Okay, the fact where you pay $200 for the 20x Claude Max subscription, and then you send 3 prompts, and then you're out of the weekly quota. That's still happening. Some folks have potentially found bugs in Claude Code that lead to this happen. I don't know if those bugs are the cause for this, but this was finally confirmed this week. We told you about this last week. It still happens. This week it was confirmed by the folks from Anthropic that they're sorry about this. No resets have to be found. So we're going to talk about the session gate for sure. We also must absolutely say, let's fucking go to the massive round of funding that OpenAI has just announced this week, folks. $122 million. $122 billion fucking dollars, the largest funding round in the history of VC. What the fuck is Sam Altman cooking? $122 billion at, I think, is like a $852 billion valuation. And they're going to go IPO this year and be able to buy their shares. It's quite insane. So these are the news from the big companies. We also have Microsoft dropping breaking news on us just before we started the show. 3 in-house models for Microsoft AI, best in-world transcription, expressive voice, and top 3 image generation, all from Mustafa Suleiman and the folks at Microsoft AI. So we're going to definitely chat about those. And we have Alibaba Qwen drop near Opus 4.5 agentic coding Qwen 3.6. So this is all in the big companies and APIs. Now we're going to have to go to open source because a lot of stuff has happened in open source as well. We have folks from Prism ML emerges with stealth with 1-bit bonsai models, an 8 billion parameter model in just 1 gigabyte, 10x intelligence density. Nistan wanted to talk about this, so we're definitely going to chat with Nistan about this as well. Liquid AI released their LFM 2.5, 350 million parameters, a tiny model, under 500 million parameter quantized. So both models can probably run on an iPhone. And then Qwen dropped 2 models. Qwen 3.5 Omni is a native Omni model handling text, image, and audio. Anything else in open source, folks, that we haven't that I haven't added here on the notes?
I think you got it.
Alrighty. All right. In tools and agentic engineering, we're going to cover Claude Code. Claude Code is a clean room rewrite of Claude Code that is the fastest in the history of the world to pass 100,000 stars with the authors Sigrid and Bellman, who is going to join us soon, hopefully. Sigrid, is Bellman online?
I think Bell is not here. Maybe he's sleeping because he is now in Korea and he has trouble in waking up, I guess.
I see. Okay, so we're gonna chat with you about Claude Code.
Okay.
In just a few moments, Sigrid. I heard you need to leave soon, so hopefully we'll get to there. In vision and video, we have Google launching VO 3.1 Lite. It's the cheapest video generation at only 5 cents per second. In voice and audio, we have Fish Audio launch speech to text. But also we have the Microsoft MAI thing that supposedly beats Whisper and like the top of the line transcription that just dropped. And AI art and diffusion, we have Alibaba's 2.7. Folks, there was rumors about Alibaba not doing a lot of open source once our friend Junyang left, but hey, Alibaba's all over the news, like 2 Quen releases and now a 2.7 as well, so that's great. And in this week's buzz, also related somehow to Sigrid, who's also here, this week's buzz in Weights and Biases in San Francisco, we hosted the weirdest hackathon in the world where folks are getting punished for touching their computer. I will say this again. You go to a hackathon, you do some stuff, and if you touch your computer, you are getting punished for that. This was like the weirdest hackathon. It was so cool. Sigrid led the final round of judging. We hosted this. I recorded the video. We have to talk about this because it was like very cool. Folks, I think that this is the TLDR. There's a bunch of news. Oh, and then also we're going to have breaking news from a very big foundational company breaking open source news. Some of you know what this is. Some of you are rumored to know what this is, but we're going to talk about this very soon. We have to start talking with Claude Code. Looks like our friend Sigrid has a little bit of a deadline. So I think this is not necessarily open source AI, but we're gonna call this open source AI. Let's go. Open source AI, let's get it started. Let's get it started. We finally can talk about what we need to talk about. Folks, someone in Anthropic, an unnamed employee, released an NPM release. That release had a source map file, .map, that included the source of all of the 512,000 lines of Claude Code. Claude Code being the #1 side project that anybody in any company ever released. I think it's a $2+ billion now hustle, if not more. And obviously the internet exploded. Absolutely exploded. Somebody found it, uploaded it online. Somebody else cloned it and put it on GitHub. And many folks just went through the source code, finding different things. No longer reverse engineering is required. So we're going to talk about some of the stuff. I specifically want to talk about the Kairos autonomous daemon, the undercover mode, and the full agent and infrastructure there. So a researcher named Xiaofan Xu, I think he goes by the nickname Deep Fry or Fried Rice, spotted like 4 a.m., posted download link. Within 6 hours, it had 3 million views and almost 40,000 GitHub forks. Anthropic started filing takedowns, but obviously nothing could be hidden from the internet. And if anything, there's the Streisand effect. So the source code is everywhere. I'm pretty sure that people have this on their computer. It's very interesting because some folks started porting this or getting inspired by this into Python and Rust, and we have those folks here. Sigrid, would love for you to tell us a little bit about the effort, if you can.
Okay. So I was in airport because I had like hosting Ralphton with Alexa. Thanks for booking the space in Weights and Biases, and then it went super viral, and it was featured in Luma. And I was in a flight back to Vancouver because I have my space in Vancouver.
To Vancouver, right?
And,
Can you just pick up just a little bit? It's kind of hard to hear you if you can be closer to the mic. Yeah.
Gotcha. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So and in the in-flight Wi-Fi, I just got a message from South Korea. I was in 3 a.m. and South Korea was around 6 p.m. Yes, and then he said the messages the Claude Code link one has been throughout has been spread throughout the internet. And I was in in-flight Wi-Fi. I just downloaded it. I just tried to look through it, and I just tried trying to ask the codecs to analyze how it works and what happens behind the code base. And I just tried to run a push interval with my analysis code.
Sigrid, let me pause you because folks are writing that we cannot understand you, and it's unfortunate because I really wanted to hear your story. But you just said that you were in middle of a flight into Toronto, and you saw the tweet, and then you downloaded the code and you started looking into it to ask questions. Right? Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, so true. And I just pushed to repository on the analysis of markdown file that my codecs helped me to understand what happens behind the critical source code. And and after that, I just tried to push on the commit, and then I left the reply, and then it went super viral. So after that, I just arrived in the airport. I just got a message from my girlfriend stating that it's kind of very sensitive issues when it comes for the legal actions because it's go against the DMCA. So what I did is to ask all my codecs, which is the codecs plugin built by my friend Melvin, and I just asked all my codecs to rewrite the feature behind their Claude Code. So so basically, what I did is to make sure to ask all my codecs, which has team mode and rough mode, which makes to run multiple codec sessions simultaneously, and that all my codecs helped me to port every lines of the code into Python.
So again, I want to pause you just so folks could hear 100% what happened here. Again, Fried Rice on March 31st. He says, Claude Code source has been leaked via map file via the NPM. We're showing this live on stage. Here's all the files. Right now, that tweet has 34 million views. You're the second reply to it and says, I backed up the source up on my GitHub with Claude Code. And you're saying you used all my codecs, right? All my codecs to pour this into Python. I think that the thing that's really funny to me, Sigrid, would love to hear from you, is that the kind of the legality. You said afterwards you woke up and you said your girlfriend said legal action scared you a little bit, so you rewrote a feature port to Python. And the very interesting thing here is, can Anthropic have any claim? We don't know, right? But you rewrote this into Python, they can have claim to the original source code because that was leaked and they're supposedly that's their property. But Python, you just rewrote it supposedly in the clean room, right? So they potentially have no claim here. I saw that you did some research, legal research with GPT. Could you tell us about this?
Oh yeah, so true. Because I know people will start to rewrite the Claude Code into their own harness engineering. In their own harness code, and even some folks will try to I think they will try to build another open code stuff. Right, open code is one of the very famous open source build. They say that I really love it, and I think that people will try to do so in the first place. So I know there is some kind of debate about kinds of what is the extent of the cleaning of it. So basically, what my gut at the time was that it's a matter of time, right? I could just raise those kind of questions by just porting it and pushing it and claiming that it's clean. And the pundits are now claiming a lot about, they're debating a lot about what is the extent of the content to be protected. What the extent should be protected when it comes to rewriting? What is rewriting? Well, what is the original source code as it is? Because it is even written by AI, right? So it's my first thought is that it will bring tons of debates about these issues, and we have never covered those the questions in the house.
All right, Sigrid, I do want to ask you about this thing. So, because of the like millions of people that saw your kind of reaction, and then millions of people said like rewrite the port as well. You got Bellman to join, and then you guys started porting this into Rust, and I think like that's very interesting to many people. And now this repo is the highest. The farthest, like most explosive repo in the world with 144,000 stars. But not only that, I think the number that's bigger here is that it has 101,000 forks, which is now impossible to do because I think the repository is locked. Could you talk us to? So, can you tell us like what the repository is about now? It used to be the backup of Claude Code. Now, what it is now, and then we'll talk about the source code afterwards.
Okay, so basically, I just want to like give a shout out to the harness built by my friends Belmont and Yongju. Like they're building all my open code, all my it's now being renamed as all my open region OM, and they are building on all my codecs and all my Claude Code as well, which is a plugins on top of the existing open code codecs and Claude Code. So, for example, they have team mode, they have Ralph mode. So I can just let my coding CLI agents to run around more than 7 hours and 8 hours. I think like Claude Code itself is one of the amazing showcase to the I just asked the codecs to run 4 hours to port it to info Python, and we just like transfer those like ownership into my personal like community organizations into their OMI series organizations, like it's called Ultraworks, and we have the secret keyword like UL, the subdivision of Ultraworks. So so I will now like transferring the ownership of the repository into ULW, and I believe that it takes a lot of time to perfectly transfer the ownership into that the Ultra workers. So I think while transferring the ownership, the repositories are being locked.
It's locked now. Yeah.
But I think it's a time for it.
Sigrid, sorry, I know that like it's you're a little bit. You said you have to leave soon. I just want to understand what is this repo going to be? Is this a Rust fork of Claude Code? Okay. Is like what are we gonna see this? And then I know you have to like jump off super quick, so we're gonna like discuss the Claude Code leak after you kind of finish. But tell us what is this repo that is the fastest repo in the world at 144,000 stars and 100,000 forks? What is gonna end up being?
Yeah, so Rust port has been finished, and as I wrote down on the article on my Twitter account. Those repositories are perfectly managed by class, and those class are being powered by all my series harness repositories. So like those class are being managed by orchestrator, and the orchestrator is in the event bus. Like for example, if the CI breaks down the GitHub, then the CI event triggers the class to rewrite the every code to fix those.
Yeah, but I asked you a question and I'm not hearing an answer. What is the are you going to post a harness that's a Claude Code source, or is this going to be like automatic? I'm not understanding what the repo is going to be. Sorry to push you on this, but I'm having a hard time to understand.
Yeah. So sure. So like those repo will be managed by class, and even we don't know like what it will be, right? It will just be on the mere reporting of the original source code. And it will be even the planned and managed by open class. So we just transfer the ownership to the open class of my friends, and then those repositories are being developed and it's being managed on the disk server of Ultraworks server. And if those channels, the pluralists is now in public, so that you can just look at those server by joining it.
I see. All right. Well, Sigrid, thank you for joining us. It's really I'm sorry, I'm getting some a bunch of comments for folks, so it's really hard to hear you. So I'm going to try to recap what you guys said. The fastest growing repo in the history of GitHub. It started with the backup of Claude Code, source code, but then quickly you guys rewrote this into Python and then into Rust. And this is all managed by those tools that you mentioned, all my codecs and all my OpenClaw from the Korean folks. It's all run with Ralph loops, which is we covered on the show here with Ryan Carson and some other folks, created by Jeff Huntley. So Ralph loops, like, it's all autonomous, and so hopefully we'll see some incredible harnesses coming out from this repo. But I think many folks will actually want to talk about the actual incident. So Sigrid, stay with us, please. Yam, I want to hear from you. You've been following this. I think you've been trying to obfuscate the Claude Code source for a while now. So tell us about how you saw the incident. What happened when Claude Code source code got leaked?
Well, let's just say that I don't know. Oh, I hear myself, man. I really hear.
You should
an
mute one
echo.
of the tabs, probably the StreamYard. You have to mute, otherwise you're gonna be in a world of pain.
No, it's not from there. Anyway, well, I seriously can't. It's not from there, but all right. So what I want to say is just I don't know. Everyone on the internet wanted to just deobfuscate the Claude Code source codes. It's just, you know, we've been all playing this game as if we don't care that we have a very interesting NPM JavaScript obfuscated on our computers that is doing magic with computers, like gives us complete computer use over our computer, and no one should look into it. I think everybody on the internet really wanted to know. I think many people on the internet already deobfuscated. I don't know about the incident or how the actual mapping got online. That's odd. But I just want to say that, let's just say that I've gone through the code. I've taken some time to go through the code. It's not as interesting as people would imagine. It's just a good harness, details done right, all the small details dialed in correctly. Most of the tricks about context engineering are already in the Entropic blog. You can read about them. They do like system reminders and so on. They're famous tricks already that you can read about. The most interesting things are, in my opinion, the prompts. But the prompts, by the way, are already on GitHub with diffs per version for a long time. You don't need the leak for them. And the secret features that people found, like Tamagotchi mode, I think, or like I don't know, wild stuff. Maybe it was an April Fool prank that got exposed before, or something. But I just want to say that anyone that looked for the magic is, and always will be in the models themselves. It's just that Claude is a good model. If you run it in a loop, it becomes magical. So whatever harness that you use, yeah, details matter, but it's mostly Claude itself, the magic. But yeah, I think, in my humble opinion, I think, like, just Anthropic, please just pick your battles. Like, don't go that hard and fight over such a thin wrapper in JavaScript. Just do as OpenAI does. Release it open source. There is no point to fight on the harness, because there are no secrets there, and you're openly saying it. So why go there in the first place and DMCA people that just leave it alone? Seriously, I mean, it's just Claude is the secret. It's not Claude Code.
Claude is the secret,
yeah.
But I will say there's more stuff that we found out specifically about hidden features, and we absolutely must talk about some of the hidden features, folks, because some of them are a testament of what's coming up in Claude Code. The very sad thing that was leaked to me was their April Fool's joke. Folks, yesterday was April Fool's, and they had the buddy system. So now, right now, if you upload Claude Code and you do /buddy, you'll have like a Pokemon type character with like rarities. It's pretty cool. But I specifically want to talk to you guys about Kairos. Do you guys see the Kairos? It's a built-in, automated and gated daemon mode that runs in the background with heartbeat prompts. So right inside Claude Code, there's a system called Kairos that has exclusive tools like push notifications and file delivery and subscribe to GitHub subscriptions, has append-only activity logs, and runs nightly on auto-dream memory consolidation. So basically, after leaking the code, folks looked into the hidden features there and discovered that Claude Code is very, very soon to be copying some more features from OpenClaw, because Heartbeat system is what we saw first in OpenClaw. And I think that's wonderful. I think that's incredible. I think that this is the testament for open source, not the leak, but the fact that like OpenClaw and Peter Steinberg, like all those folks, are fully open source, and then everybody can adopt from there. Would love to hear from you guys about some other things that we found that the people did analyze the leak and actually found in there. So feel free to kind of jump in there, raise your hand. Nistan, looks like you have a go.
Yeah, there was something huge that I think it was Westboss or one of the TypeScript developers. They found out that it was injecting the Claude prompt, Claude.md, over and over, and
at every turn, right?
Yeah, but that's not actually what happens. It doesn't do that because my Claude MD is 50,000 tokens long, and I do a lot more than 4 turns. So that's not actually what happens. But the other thing they found, it was injecting fake tool calls to kind of ruin the data sets that people are generating off of it. So this part was very, very interesting.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
they had like anti-distillation features, right? Something like this.
Yeah, so if you are someone that keeps all of your .claude folder logs backed up, which you should, now don't just use that data directly, the JSON lines, just pass it through like Quen or something to generate it 120,000 tokens at a time, and try to remove some of the fake tool calls. And try to remove some of the noise. So yeah, now you're going to have to both take a tmux session and take your Claude Code tmux is there, and then try to figure out what the heck got injected that was not a tool call. So yeah, that's going to be annoying, but it is what it is now. Yeah.
What else do we have from there? Ryan, would love to hear from you what you saw folks post about the source code of Claude Code.
Yeah, just want to make sure my audio is coming through.
Yeah, amazing.
Okay. I actually want to back up and say, I think this reveals something pretty important about the way people are using these tools. So, I've worked at one of these agent labs. Right?
AMP.
And so
shout out to AMP.
And AMP is amazing. It's an amazing team. So I've, seen the inside of these things, and I use these tools every day, way too much. And there's a whole harness that's much bigger than the agent, right? It's the entire SDLC, right? And I think what I think everyone that's serious about these tools is realizing is that just the agent harness, like a Claude Code, is not enough. Like, you have to have the whole SDLC, right? And
can you define SDLC to folks?
So software development life cycle, right? So this is everything from your issue tracking to the shepherding of PRs to merge. It is automations that run daily to do things like bug finding, CI checks. That this is a whole thing. Like so you kind of have to back up. And I know it's kind of depressing to people that I've sort of thrown my towel in and said I'm just using Devin because and I don't care if you use Devin or not, or some other thing, but I think you have to admit you need the whole SDLC. Like, otherwise you're screwing around with, tweaking your agent harness instead of doing real work. Like, so I'm just going to say it. We need to get real work done here. And seeing the Claude Code source code does not fix any of that. Like, so I'm just going to be the grumpy guy who's in the room who's saying, we just need to ship stuff.
Ship stuff with high quality is something that more and more difficult for Anthropic lately. We also covered the session gate. We're going to talk about session gate very, very soon. They acknowledge that this is a bug. Some people, before the source code leaked, actually went on Reddit and deobfuscated some of the code, backpropagated some of the code, and noticed some caching bugs as well. Wolfram, you look like you have a comment about the source code leak, and then we're going to chat about some more stuff.
Yeah, since you asked about what stuff we saw online, I saw a lot of some controversy about the hidden feature where it says if you're an Anthropic employee, it will hide all the traces that you are using Claude Code. So basically, by default, you get this attribution when you make a PR. When you upload code to submit it, then it says that the co-author is Claude Code. You could always turn that off, but even for the Anthropic people, they have even more leak protection. I don't find it controversial because they are working with the internal stuff, and basically they expanded their system prompt to prevent model names to leak or stuff like that. So personally, I didn't find it controversial, but I know some people found a lot of stuff by looking at the source code that we knew about. Like I saw an article on the register about that it has so much access to your system. Yeah, sure. It is a computer controlling agent. Of course, it has access to your system if you enable the features. So basically, a lot of people like just waking up what this thing can do. And we are running this closed source software locally. There has been supply chain attacks and stuff. Something like that could happen in a closed source project and you wouldn't even notice because nobody could find it out until it's too late. So there's a lot speaking for having it open source. And now that it has been leaked, maybe they will reconsider. Like Jan said, it's out. The cat is out of the bag. And it would be cool if they just follow the lead that Google and OpenAI have been doing, and all the other open source projects that are already open. Because I don't feel so well if I run closed source software like that on my system. I mean, we all do, but still open source gives us more ways, more transparency, which is very important with AI, I think.
Yeah. Let's do Yam and then Ryan, and then folks will have to move on because a lot to cover and we barely started.
Yeah, something interesting that I saw in the code is that there is an explicit different system prompt and other settings if you are working in Anthropic. And look, we can customize the system prompt, but I don't know. That feels I don't know. That feels kind of wrong in my opinion. To have I don't know. The official code has an if you're an Anthropic employee, you get this. Otherwise, you get that. It doesn't matter what the thing is. It's just I don't know. Something a little bit off about this. And I also saw some other stuff that is only. I need to validate before I say something, in front of everyone. But I saw other stuff of this style that if you're an Anthropic employee, you get this feature, and if you're not, you get a system prompt that deliberately tells your model to output as the least amount of tokens as possible. And it's like, why?
So
it's not. Yeah.
Yam, you're shocked that a for-profit private company is optimizing for themselves? Like, what do you mean?
Look, okay. The only thing I'm shocked about is the lack of transparency at the end. You can change the rate limits of my subscription, no problem. Just tell me, okay? I mean, that's okay if you tell me. But if you're not saying anything and all of a sudden my entire quota is burning in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm paying for the quota. It's like
that's the next topic.
Cool.
Let us finish. I really want to talk about Session Gate, but let's finish.
No problem.
I wanted to give Sigrid one last kind of like shout out. Sigrid, feel free to chime in here. Tell us about the leak itself and tell us like a little bit about like who do you think needs to know about.
Okay, can you hear me right?
No, really bad, man. I'm sorry. Like it's. I'm seeing folks shaking their heads. You need to be closer to the mic or something. Maybe.
Or just don't use headphones. Just talk.
Yeah, if you are in headphones, just talk to the phone.
I'm just talking. It's okay.
Much better.
Nice
Yeah.
one.
There we go.
Yeah, much better. Yeah, nifty. Yeah. So I just want to like give a shout out to the harnesses that I have relied on a lot. So just try to look at all my codecs and all my Claude Code and all my open code. So like those are the harnesses that my friends are now building. And I was as I wrote down on the X articles, like those my Claude Code porting work has been done by my friends' harnesses, and it's really awesome because like if you just like try to make sure that you like just Claude Code or Codex to wanna run in a rough group and run, like for example, like if you have work with any decoding seller agent, you might be able to see there is a very last comment saying, if you want to do something, I can let you know, I can let you do, right? So like when you look at those messages, you need to wanna like still like write down to wanna continue or proceed, right?
Yeah.
And then, well, when it comes for using those like plugins, for example, then you can just like keep the Claude like and the codex working. So I think the rough group here is super amazing here. So I just want to like mention that the future of working is not just like opening up terminal. I have never opened up the terminal in the last 3 months because like I just like rely on my OpenClaw, and the OpenClaw has been related to connected to Discord. So I can just like type of messages to Discord messages, and Discord messages is being kind of spawned into every clause, and then each clause spawns the multiple codecs and the clause sessions, and it tries to run till each task has already been done or accomplished. So I really love like those.
Looks like we lost Sigrid, but we'll shout out the oh my type stuff, oh my OpenClaw, oh my codex, etc. Sigrid, we lost you there for a minute. We have to move on. We'll shout out. We'll add this to the show notes so folks who are listening. ThursdAI is a podcast and a newsletter as well. It ends up in a newsletter, so you are going to be able to see all the links that we have for you, and we're going to add all those sources as well, folks. We have to move on. Claude Code source code was leaked. It was a big thing. It was a huge thing. Honestly, yours truly, the top space, the top Twitter post that I ever had was describing this thing, which Space Uncle reposted. Many of you are here because of that, so shout out. It's like a thing. My friends texted me like, "Hey, Alex, congrats!" I'm like, "What for?"
Alex, I'm proud of you, buddy. That was impressive.
Thank you. I did nothing to have with anything. I just like covered the news, but we do cover the news here on a weekly basis. So hopefully some of you who joined us because of that is now here in the Twitter space and the live, and you are you're enjoying what we bring. And what we bring is news and coverage. And in that vein, we have to move on, folks. We've been talking about this for almost like 40 minutes, only one topic. Anthropic is in the news still because of SessionGate. What is SessionGate? If you have a Pro or Max plan on Anthropic, they have two Max plans, one for $100, one for $200 with 20x, supposed 20x session. You get way more API calls than you would get if you pay for API, supposedly. Recently, I think 2 weeks ago, we first noticed this problem. Last week, we talked to you about this. This week, Anthropic finally acknowledged that this is an actual issue that people are having. People are getting their quotas, even for the max $200 month plan, finished. Their sessions are done, the 5-hour sessions and the weekly sessions, as early as Monday. The session resets on Sunday, and on Monday they cannot no longer. The thing that, and I want to chat with this about this with the team here. The thing that triggers the most people there is the fact that Anthropic is shipping features. Put the Claude Code leak aside. Anthropic is shipping features like crazy, and yet they're unable to acknowledge this. They finally did acknowledge it. So shout out to Tariq, shout out to I think Linda from the Bun team that acknowledged this thing. But I think what happened is Anthropic don't actually, we talked about this last week, they don't actually know like what's going on in the infra, and they don't really listen to the users. Ryan, you went viral for this saying like the DevRel, and we all have like Tariq or somebody else. This was awful. This is like for the 2.5 weeks, people are not getting what they paid for. At least what Anthropic has promised them. Then Anthropic came out and said, hey, you will run through your quota faster than before, which is like the most cloudy marketing speech way to say, hey, we've nerfed our max plans, and everybody's complaining about this now. And people are
speak up.
Yeah.
Why can't Anthropic do DevRel? What is happening over there? You guys, like this is not rocket science. Get your shit together.
Yeah. So we have to shout out, their job is not easy. Everything they post gets reposted to oblivion, and there's a lot of haters that want to jump in. But still, this SessionGate is just awful. I had a post about this that went viral. That I just asked people, hey, are you experiencing the same thing? People said yes. And then somebody on Reddit actually backported kind of Claude Code and then noticed that there's caching bugs. So apparently, if you use -- resume in Claude Code, I don't think that was fixed, by the way. I think that it's still a bug. It's conferred now that if you use resume feature, what is the resume feature? If you're using Claude Code for a while and then you stopped and you want to go back to that conversation, that whole conversation is going to get sent without cache to Anthropic, which costs 10 to 20 times more for tokens. This was confirmed by somebody. We tagged Tariq and other folks in there. They said this is not necessarily the problem. It's not 100% the bug that causes Claude Code to get out of cache calls, specifically because we know that like folks who use OpenClaw, for example, they're not supposed to, but the folks who use OpenClaw with the Max account, they didn't have as many issues like this as well. But now they do. So while Anthropic suffers from one kind of leak type situation, and hopefully they acknowledge this and move on, and maybe they open source Claude Code, because why not? We would love to call on Anthropic to say, hey, folks, people are switching. People are tired of this. People are sending 1 or 2 messages and their quota is done. What's going on? So if you're like this, folks, if you're listening to us anywhere, please comment if this is the experience that you have as well. Maybe this will help like move Anthropic a little bit. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead. And then Wolfram, I think you had a comment.
I just want to encourage everybody to consider to moving off of these lab harnesses. Like the truth is, if you are confined to a lab harness like a Claude Code or a Codex or a Gemini CLI, you are not going to have the best experience, period. Like, so, pick one that is an agent lab, not a lab, because I think this is going to keep happening, right? If you're locked into whatever Anthropic is doing or whatever OpenAI is doing or whatever Google is doing, it's bad for you. And I think there's a couple agent labs that are rising above this. They're gonna, for instance, like if you're using another agent lab and there's some weird shit that goes on with caching, and you would have been used up all of your quota, they're gonna eat it, not you. So yeah, I'm just pretty passionate about this. I think devs are getting screwed because they're loyal to these labs, and it's ending badly. So just kind of sorry, I'm getting angry about it.
Yeah, I hear you. And you recently moved to Devon. It's also something we can cover in the post Thursday. Devon is incredible. Shout out. We have Nader is still with us in the audience. Devon, I love Devon for that. Folks, I think we have breaking news, but we'll cover the breaking news once our friend joins us in, I think, in a few more minutes. But definitely is breaking news that's happening right now. Should we? Oh yeah, looks like let's announce this. This is what we're here for. We love breaking news, right? So let's do the breaking news, and we'll just tell you that we knew about this. So we have a guest coming to tell you about this. AI breaking news coming at you only on ThursdAI. Alrighty, folks who are joining ThursdAI for the first time, the best thing that we do here, the thing we love to do the most, and tell you about breaking news. We have breaking news from DeepMind. Google released 4 different Gemma open source weights models, open weights models. Gemma 4 is 4 different weights of the open weights Gemma model, and they adopted the Apache 2 license, open source. This is great. Let's give a round of applause. We love open source here, 100%. And I can finally say who our guest of honor is, Omer Sensivero from Hugging Face, from Google DeepMind, but used to be the Chief Law Officer at Hugging Face. Oops, I'm going to tell you this again. Omer Sensivero, lead developer relations at DeepMind, used to be previously on Hugging Face as the Chief Law Officer, a very big proponent of open source. He's going to join us talk about Gemma 4 in just 20 minutes. Folks, so please stay with us because Omer is a great dude, very articulate. We love hearing from Omer all the time, and he's been a friend of the show since the glorious Llama days. They released a 31 billion parameter dense, 26 billion parameter active MOE, 8 billion and 5 billion. Smaller models you can run on your laptop right now. It's quite awesome as a show. So shout out to Google DeepMind for carrying the torch of Western open source forward from Google. That's incredible. Just absolutely just marvelous, folks. I love this. Love every moment of this. We'll cover it with Omer, so there's nothing a lot to say there. Like we'll ask him, but definitely we'll get back to the rest of the show until Omer joins us. Anything else to say about Session Gate, folks? Anything interesting besides the fact that, hey, this is a bummer? The one thing I wanted to say before you guys jump in is apparently GitHub Copilot has a great program, and you can add Opus 4.6 there, and the quotas are not as bad as on Anthropic. So if you are using this for your clause or whatever, there is this. Wait, Yam, go ahead, and then Nistan.
I'll just, really quick, if you're on GitHub, make sure to go to your GitHub settings, because any old repo that you've had, and I think personal ones too, they're going to use it to train models, and they just turn that on randomly, and you have 1 month to turn that off. The other thing is, Anthropic can now never take this down, because crypto people finally did something useful, and they made a decentralized GitHub somewhere. So it's kind of, it has its issues as with crypto software, but just shout out to GitClaw that I found out randomly that promised to just host the code forever. So yeah, that's it. Let's go, guys. We have so much more stuff for the week.
Yam, go ahead. I think you had a comment and we'll move.
Yeah, I just want to say that that's not the first time that it happens. And I don't know, I just want to say that there is a competitor that has a reset button, and they're absolutely not afraid to use it. So
you are referring to Codex, of course, and the funniest meme that I saw is also from our friend VB, who's been on the stage with us multiple times. He said, "Oh my God, OpenAI Codex code was also leaked," and then he posted to the fully open source Codex harness that's been open source since the beginning. Not only that, the folks in Codex have resetted quotas multiple times. So while we do shout out to Anthropic for many of the great features they bring us and the great Claude model, still, I think for OpenClaw, I think it's still one of the best models that you can use OpenClaw with. They have not acknowledged this session gate. They have not reset any credits, and it's kind of a bummer. So we will keep monitoring. We'll let you know. But if you are getting your quotas done, you're not alone. And there is a competitors. Codex is a great competitor for that. Folks, let's move on. Tons of other news. I think we have to move on to. We're going to cover open source in a bit, but let me pull up the notes here. Let's talk about OpenAI's 122 billion largest private equity fund in the history of the world. I think okay, let me just say the tagline. OpenAI has closed the largest private equity round in history of private equity, of venture funding, etc. $122 billion at a whopping $852 billion valuation. As part of it, they have confirmed, let me just show you this real quick. They have confirmed that they're adding $2 billion per month in revenue with 900 million weekly active users. That's actually kind of surprising, because we had 900 million weekly active users as a stat confirmed last December. So it kind of looks like OpenAI is not growing as much as they used to. Based on this, but they are definitely growing in Codex. Codex has passed 2 million developers recently. They projected to lose 14 billion this year, and they're burning $150 million per day. But the last thing I'll say, the $122 billion reportedly only gives them 18 to 24 months of runway, making the IPO that's coming a financial necessity. All right, now let's discuss.
10 minutes of quota. It gives them 10 minutes of quota.
Yes, but hopefully they got Sora out, so maybe that will bring some GPUs back online for them for Codex. But 122 billion, it's just absolutely crazy. This is the biggest venture fund in the history, larger than, three times larger than the previous largest, which was also OpenAI. I find that really, really funny. This is the largest funding round in history, 3 times larger than the previous one, which is also OpenAI. And before that, there was Anthropic. We should also mention, who's going to join this round? Amazon invested $50 billion, but then they gained $100 billion in expanded AWS commitment. NVIDIA put in $30 billion, which obviously OpenAI buys from NVIDIA, and SoftBank put in $30 billion more, which SoftBank and OpenAI are commingled together in Stargate. Or Stargate, was that? Yeah, so the Stargate initiative as well. So like the infinite money glitch keeps on glitching. It's really funny. Folks, any comments on this? Anything interesting? LD, I want to hear from you. What do you have to say about this topic?
It's another data point amongst everything happening. Sorry, I hear some echo. Oh, sorry, I'm talking in.
Oh, LDJ has echo issues. Tech stuff. Okay, so what else? 35x
Guys,
revenue.
Accelerate.
You guys could hear me now?
Largest funding round in the
Yeah,
world.
we could hear you.
I accelerate.
Sorry, I
Accelerate.
was talking in StreamYard instead of Spaces. Okay, I'm in Spaces now. Yeah, it's like another data point amongst all the crazy stuff happening amongst this acceleration, this curve. But yeah, this is the biggest in history. I think their last one and the one before that was also the biggest in history. But
Yes.
So it's just consecutive record breaking, and it does beg the question. Anthropic, like how much is this really kind of sucking the air out of the room that might be available for Anthropic in the future, and what difficulties might this cause for Anthropic fundraising, or maybe none? Maybe they'll just continue fundraising as usual with no problems. But when they IPO, that's going to be crazy. I could imagine all these little times where Nvidia has went up and down, or the memory companies have went up and down because some new paper comes out from Google or a model gets dropped by DeepSeek. I feel like that will be amplified maybe multiple fold when OpenAI becomes public and people start making crazy sell-offs and buy-ins just off simple news. Yeah.
So the rumors that I saw, and I think we don't deal with rumors here on ThursdAI, but this was I think confirmed with some people. There's secondary markets for these upcoming IPOs, secondary markets for these shares, and at some point somebody said that nobody is able to buy Anthropic shares in the secondary market, but nobody wants to buy the OpenAI ones. That's very interesting. So that's very, very interesting. We don't do any type of hype or financial advice here, but take with what you will. Folks, I want to move on to the big companies, Microsoft thing, and then we'll definitely need to cover the 1-bit release. I see Nistim really wants to cover this, but we'll definitely get there. I want to cover, because this was also breaking news from this morning, Microsoft AI, led by Mustafa Suleiman, finally released something. Microsoft AI finally released something of their own. It's not a language model. Microsoft AI released the world's best subscription. We haven't tested it, but I would love to test this out. Number one on accuracy, MAI Transcribe 1, which is basically a Whisper competitor. Number one on accuracy, lowest word error rate on Fleur's benchmark, 25 languages supported. It beats Whisper Large, GPT Transcribe, Gemini 3.5 Flash, and Scribe. 2.5 times faster than Azure Fast Transcription, 36 cents per hour, best price to performance, and handles noisy environments, overlapping speech. And it's rolling in Copilot Voice and Teams. I'm hoping this is going to roll out in API as well. MAI Image 2, it's number 3 on the arena. So they dropped in voice transcription model, a voice model, and an image model all together, which is quite insane. When I say dropped, when we say dropped and we mean image like models, we usually say, hey, they released this. These models are not. They're supposed to. I think they're only in Microsoft AI. I don't think they're even like available in API yet. So we'll see. So shout out to Microsoft. Number 3, MAI images is number 3 ranked in the arena, and the voice handle natural expression speech generation. I don't like those releases. There are like 3 different models together. It kind of confuses me, but fine. I think, folks, we've chatted enough about the big ones, and I think it's time for us to talk about Gemma, as we have Omar Sansivero here. Omar, I'm going to add you to the Twitter space. Please accept me there. I'm going to add you here as well to the thing. So we'll see you in StreamYard, but we'll hear you in Twitter space so folks can follow you over there and know who's speaking. I know it's a bit of a juggle, but folks, say hi to Omar Sansivero, who's just joining us from... yeah, Omar, if you want to just like hop on the space but speak here, it's fine. Just make sure you don't have feedback.
Is this good?
I think it's good, yeah. So your voice is coming through me, and folks in spaces should hear you as well.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Alrighty, big news. We already announced the news, but please give us a small announcement. Omar from the Gemma team at Google DeepMind. What did you guys just release?
Yeah, cool. So yes, super excited to be here. We just announced Gemma 4, our first major launch of the year, our largest launch ever.
Apache 2 license. Yeah, let's go.
Apache 2 license. Yeah. So pretty much for the last year, you have seen like all of us interacting in social media, Reddit, local llama, everywhere, asking for feedback. And we have tried to incorporate as much feedback as we can. So new license, new capabilities. We have incorporated system instructions, function calling. And if you have seen the LM Arena scores, these are extremely strong models for the size. Actually, LM Arena just reshared this in X a few minutes ago.
All right, we're gonna put this on. We're gonna put this on here. But folks, meet Gemma 4. Gemma is a series of open source models from Google DeepMind, advanced reasoning and agentic workflows, and Apache 2 license. And we're gonna go and look at LM Arena scores because I think they're big. Omar, what is? Can you tell us like how Google thinks about open source? Because obviously, like there's Gemini, and folks love Gemini. But tell us about Gemma and how Gemma is considered within open source.
Yeah, of course. So, like Google DeepMind's goal is to really empower the community to make AI accessible for humanity's problems, and not everything is through a API-based model, right? So, Gemma pretty much enables you to do a bunch of different things. One of the big interesting angles is to create extremely powerful models that can run in your own hardware, even to the size of running like in a phone device, right? So there are two very small models, the E2B and E4B. Those can run in Android phones, in a Pixel phone, in a Samsung high-end phone. And then there are the larger models, but all of these models are models that fit in a consumer GPU, right? So if you have 20 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes of GPU, you should be able to use these models. So that's one aspect, like enabling developers, enabling startups, enabling people to fine-tune the model. There's also a very interesting aspect on the sovereign use case. So when people need to deploy the models in a setup in which the data cannot leave the servers. Yeah, let me take a pause here because this is one of the things we're the most excited about. So these are the two largest sizes that we released, the 31 billion parameter and the 26 billion MOE with 4 billion activated parameters. And you can see these models are very competitive. And what is more exciting is the size of these models, right? All the other models there are few hundred, even 1 trillion billion parameters. So the research team really has done an amazing job packing so much intelligence per parameter here.
So let me just like shout it out because folks who are just listening, they're not seeing this. Folks, we're looking at the arena.ai rankings for Gemma 4 variants. Gemma 4 31 billion parameter gets the number 3 spot among open weights models and number 27 overall. And the Gemma 4 MOE, mixture of experts, 26 billion parameters with active 4 gets number 6. These models are beating or coming close to 1 trillion parameter models like Kimi K2 Thinking and GLM5. Which is just incredible. Omar, how big is the 31B in gigabyte sizes? Is like 40 gigs or something?
Yeah, it depends on the quantization schema that you choose, right? I mean, you can even go down to 16, 18 billion parameters, gigabytes. Yeah.
I think, Omar, the thing I would love to ask you, there's a lot of brouhaha now on Twitter lately with like open source, with local models, local people, Theo. Like there's a whole like blah 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 about like open models running them, self-sovereign, etc. What's your take? I would love to hear your take. You've been previously Chief Llama Officer at Hugging Face. You've been proponent of open source models for a long, long time. We chatted with you on the stage here multiple times about different models from before. What's your take? Where are local models going? How good they are right now compared to like different things. And when I say a local model, I specifically mean the size that you guys released. 31B is a local model. Like 26B, A4B is the local model. I can run them on my MacBook. I can hopefully run them on Mac Mini for like OpenClaw. I'm not talking about like open weights model as a class because GLM5 nobody can run on their laptop. Come on. So would love to hear from you. Where's this like industry going? How's it been? Just give us a recap of like the open weights local models.
Yeah. The way I see it is, from Google's point of view, we are releasing the best open models that can fit in a consumer GPU. And that's quite important for us. Like we want to release extremely good models, but that everyone can run with their hardware, right? The way I see it is that you have like two different things. So when you really want like raw intelligence, the best models, you will usually go for a proprietary model, right? But there are many use cases to want to run the models yourself for local models. And that's where all of the fine-tuning side of things comes, right? So if you need to adapt models, add new skills, add new capabilities for healthcare setups, finance setups, privacy setups in which the data cannot leave the your hardware, that's where I see like the local models. What is exciting though is that the open models catch up to proprietary models relatively quickly. So if you compare Gemma 4, it's matching the proprietary's capabilities from a year ago or even 8 months ago. So I think that's a trend that is quite exciting in general. Being able to run those capabilities directly in the user's hardware.
Folks, you want to jump in here with a question? I want to post the fact that Omar is here with us on Space. Feel free to jump in here and ask Omar a question.
I can also share a bit more about the launch in general if you want.
Yeah, look, my question is how? Like, how do you do this? If you can share whatever you can share about the making of.
Yeah, so pretty much these models are built on top of all of the groundbreaking research that happens with Gemini. So this has been built on top of all of the research that went into Gemini 3. So for all of those things where you saw a jump in terms of capabilities from Gemini 2.5 to Gemini 3, you should expect similar improvements. So for example, agentic capabilities, coding, multimodality capabilities, all of those things, these models are much stronger compared to the previous generation. But yeah, what is exciting is being able to put so much knowledge and so many capabilities in a 30 billion parameter checkpoint. We will be sharing more information about some of these things.
I would love to see more info as well, like transparency-wise, into the process. I think like the cool thing that we saw from labs like RC that recently released their like large model as well, and some other labs is that like the whole process of training is great. Obviously, you guys have a very specific approach and like learnings from Gemini, which are like great models as well. Omar, which one of those would you use right now if you had to like run an OpenClaw fully locally? Which I think is a great thing for these models. The thing that folks often don't understand is that while OpenClaw is open source, if you send your data to an LLM, like let's say Gemini or Claude Opus or whatever, like you're still sending data. But you can get to a very good like level of complete agentic automation locally. Maybe not as good as frontier models, but definitely fully locally if you want to with some of these models, especially with like the 31-bit that you released. So talk to me about agentic capabilities. Talk to me, which model would you use if you want to run like an agent fully locally on your computer?
Yeah, I mean, again, like these models are very good for coding. Like if you want like a raw intelligence, you would go for the 31B. If you want like a latency, you would go for the MOE, right? But yeah, so just to give you like a couple of examples, even the super small checkpoints are very good for agentic things. So we have a couple of demos and even like the AI Edge Gallery that we...
Oh, looks like we have lost Omar, and I think at this point we'll chime in with the joke. Omar, we lost you for like 2 sentences there. Could you say again, if you don't mind?
No worries. Yeah, so we have an app called the Google AI Edge Gallery that you can go to the Play Store and download. That allows you to run the Gemma checkpoints directly in your Android phone using Lite, which is a format for local inference. And there's a demo there where you can actually load skills into the model and teach the model how to do different things directly in the phone. So even for the E2B and E4B, which are the 2 smaller variants, they have very good agentic capabilities.
I think folks have questions for you. So Wolfram first and then Nistan.
Yeah, so first things, I'm super excited. This is my favorite release of the year. I think you know how long I've been waiting for this, because Gemma 3, I still recommend it all the time. It's in German, it's a great model, and in Europe, very, very popular. So one of my favorite models, and super happy about the sizes as well. That, you have the perfect size, not too small, where you think, I can only use it on my phone. I can use this on my workstation, and that is great. Do you plan to also do something like the 72B, or is the 31B basically the maximum size you envision for these kinds of models? That is my first question.
Yeah, we have many things in the open, so I cannot share too much, but this is not the last release for now. Like we have many things in the pipeline, so keep watching X, follow the new account, and you'll hear back from us with new things very, very soon.
There is a specific Gemma account now on Twitter or on X, and then Omar is at Omar Sansevero, I think. Please give Omar a follow, folks who here on the Twitter. We'll add you to the show notes. Nistan, Go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for infiltrating Google and making them put Apache licenses. That's very appreciated. I want to ask, can we expect TurboQuant versions of these or quantization-aware training versions of these models?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that we do for the Gemma launches is that we collaborate very, very closely with the open source ecosystem, right? So for this launch, actually, we have a huge list of partners. So of course, we are working with Llama CPP and BLLM and Hugging Face and even for Transformers.js or Candle for inference in Rust or Llama. And yeah, we have like 20, 30 different integration partners who are working for day zero. And as part of that, we are working already with MLX, for example. They are doing prints from the MLX open source contributors. He's already doing some. So rather than release like an official like TurboQuant from our side, we're working with folks already working in the space to have a day zero very soon, like in the first week at TurboQuant.
I just want to add two things about TurboConf. First of all, folks who are just listening, who are tuning in for the first time and haven't heard about TurboConf, we had a whole segment last week where we talked about TurboConf, which is a KV cache optimization technique released by Google Research. And it's really, really cool, like 6 times as compression. But also this week, I saw that somebody applied TurboQuant to weights optimization, not only to KV cache optimization. So that's going to be very interesting. And looking forward to see a bunch of that research together with open source models, releasing the best optimized models in the world. Omar, thank you so much for joining. Any last words? Any shout out to the team? I know you're like in the middle of a release, you have to run everywhere, so I want to be mindful of your time. But like any last words? Shout out to the team. Where can people find these models? Give us like the download. The stage is yours to kind of recap and give shout outs.
Yeah, of course. So go to AI. So if you just want to experiment and see how good these models are, just go to AI Studio. You can try out the models there for free without having to do any downloads or anything. So that's the easiest way to try out the model. And then you can go to Kaggle, Llama, Hugging Face, try out the models. If you build anything, like any fine tunes, any notebooks, any blog posts, feel free to share with us. And again, like big kudos to the research team, because these capabilities for a 31B model, it's a very, very exciting update. So yeah, keep updated, follow the new Google Gemma X account, and thanks for receiving me.
I want to show this. Just 1 second, listen 1 second. I want to show this for folks who are not for folks who are watching us, and for those who are not watching us, I'm just gonna call this out. This is the Arena ELO scores. So on LM Arena, when folks vote between anonymous responses from LLMs, they vote, and then the Arena calculates the ELO score. Previously LM Arena, we see models on this chart that are terabyte, 1 trillion parameters, a little bit over Kimi K2. GLM5 is 754 billion. Qwen 3.5 is 397 billion. DeepSeek V 3.2 is 600. So all of the models here are like 400 billion and above. Gemma 4 is 31 billion parameter, 10x smaller than most of these models here, if not like 20x. And it gets a very, very high ELO score comparatively. Nearly gets closer to Kimi K2 at 1452, and Kimi K2 is 1454. So like very close performance on Arena with Kimi K2.5, which is a great model. We know it's a great model. We told you about this, how great this model is. This 31 billion parameter model with 256,000 tokens in the context window and is trained for agentic tool use, gets very close to Kimi K2.5 at 20x the size. So definitely worth checking it out. Go ahead.
Maybe just to do like a super quick recap again, like we have been like asking in Reddit and X and everywhere, like with the startups and with folks that we're partnering with, what do you want to see for Gemma 4? And when we were asking that, it was not shit posting, like we were actually like collecting all of this feedback. So quick recap, like we added thinking, which we didn't have. We added video understanding. We added like variable aspect ratio and resolution. We added audio understanding for the small models, MOE for latency, dense for local inference. We did a bunch of on-device optimizations for the Android deployment, for mobile deployment, extended the context window, agentic coding, system instruction, which is like a very stupid, silly thing that everyone was complaining, and all of this while preserving the creativity and instruction following that people have historically liked a lot from Gemma. Any feedback that you have for future models, let us know. We take it seriously.
That's incredible. Also, one shout out that the DeepMind team is going to be in AI Engineer Europe next week, and Omar hopefully will join us, and we'll talk a bit about this as well. And we'll have like some feedback for you, direct feedback. Omar, thank you so much for joining us. All right, cheers, man, folks. I want reactions about the gem model before we move on. Folks in the audience as well, not only hosts on stage. I would love to hear from folks on Twitter Spaces in comments. What do you think about Gemma model? Have you tried the previous Gemma? Or are you excited about this new one? Folks in YouTube as well would love to hear. Wolfram, I feel like you're bursting with excitement. Tell us.
Definitely. Like I said. Oh.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, I was on the wrong channel.
I wanted to know if you could do video.
All right, let's go.
Basically, I'm super excited about it because, like I said, in Europe, it's super big and more important than most of the other models because it's open source. It is not too big. It is great in German. Yeah, Chinese models still, there's still something where they are not used for everything. So basically, this is great that they have taken up what Meta used to do, like be the Western open source leader, and now it looks like Google is doing this again. Like we have been waiting so long for this.
Gemma is the new llama. Gemma is the new llama. I wasn't as excited about Llama 4 release. This is incredible.
Yeah, and right. That was something. But I'm definitely going to test this as soon as possible. The download is finished on one computer, on the other it's still running. Super excited. This is Easter weekend. I want to test this all the way up and down, and they listen to all this stuff. Like I personally reported the system prompt issues, posted on Reddit at the time, and basically this has been done. They have agentic focus. If we can use this for our open clause and Hermes agents and all the other stuff locally, that is super important. Like we have seen how expensive it is and how the quota gets used up. So having something you can run locally, that is super important. And it has never been more important, I think, now with the agentic stuff and our personal assistants that have all our data. If we have that running locally, it can just go to the external when it needs the extra intelligence and only sends the data that is needed for whatever we request. And we can keep most of our stuff locally. Super important release.
I think it's great. Absolutely great. Folks, last comments. So maybe Nistan.
It looks like the vision compression is pretty efficient. I think it's like 260 tokens per.
Yeah, they're multimodal now. This is incredible. This is an incredible release.
Yeah, I was wondering how long of video lengths they could do, but I guess we'll find out, and people will make turbo quant versions. So that was pretty funny to me. They're letting us have the fun with the quantization and not just doing it themselves.
All right. I think anybody wants to do last comments? Folks in the comments are saying whether or not this is going to be an API. I believe so. Like, why wouldn't Google serve this in API? If not, other people will definitely host this model. Like, it's going to show up on the open router very, very quick. I think the exciting thing for me is we're back to local models. Open source for us has meant local models for such a long time. And then these companies started training. They didn't have the budget like 3 years ago to train a 1 trillion parameter model. And then Llama went to like Behemoth that never released, I think, and like bigger models, and we stopped caring because like it's for us at CoreWeave, we host these models live. We can give you inference, but they're not like open source anymore. If you are going to use the best intelligence possible, you're going to use a hosted model, one of the frontier labs. But if you want to run them locally, you want the smaller parameters. I'm so excited about this size. 31 billion parameters is perfect. Ryan, go ahead.
I mean, big win for OpenClaw, right?
Yeah,
I think there's going to be a lot of us, experimenting with our claws on this, and I can't wait.
All right, folks. I think it's time for us to reset the space a little bit. We've been over an hour and a half here. We have a bunch of new folks. I just want to tell you again who we are and why you're here. You are on ThursdAI. ThursdAI is the best AI news show that happens on Twitter, YouTube, and everywhere else, including LinkedIn. Hi, LinkedIn folks. We've been at this for over 3 years. We talk about everything that happens in the world of AI with great focus on open source. That's why we just gave applause. We have folks from different labs. Like we just had Omar and Sigrid from DeepMind. We had folks from OpenAI, folks from Meta previously, and we love covering everything that happens in the world of AI. If you love that also, and you're getting a little bit distracted about like the tons of releases that happen, we're here to kind of summarize and show you and talk about the most important news. So please please stay with us and please subscribe. If you're new here, please tell your friends if you're not new here. And as we're going to continue, I will want to say that the show is sponsored by Weights and Biases. If you're watching us, this is the yellow jacket I'm wearing. Both me and Wolfram and Wolf are AI evangelists at Weights and Biases /CoreWeave. And we usually on the show, we have like a 2, 3, 5 minute segment that talks about the Weights and Biases stuff. And we call it This Week's Buzz. This one's very interesting. I'm going to play some video for you super quick, and maybe Wolfram will give us a little bit of a taste of Wolfbench, and then we're going to continue, folks. We have a bunch of other stuff to discuss. There's vision and video, voice and audio, and I would love to hear about like an agentic update as well from some folks here. What are you using, Ryan? We've missed you a couple of weeks. Would love to hear about your port, and also I think for a new thing, there may be a continuation. So the show usually runs for 2 hours, but folks have recently found out that a post-ThursdAI Twitter Spaces also can happen. So we'll tell you all about this. So let's go to this week's buzz super quick, and I'll tell you about some exciting stuff. And then we will be back to our to talk to you about news. Maybe we'll have some more breaking news. Nobody knows. About why he's wearing the lobster costume. I also want to tell you about the most unique hackathon where humans don't do most of the work. This is the first hackathon where people are getting punished by touching their laptops after they hit go. The red thing on top of his head is the punishment. So everybody who touches their laptop after the initial kickoff is wearing the red hat. So the folks here are using a technique known as Ralph, where you give an LLM a set of instructions and then you let it run. Come with me, I'll show you more. Bong, he goes by GB, he's part of the staff. They brought this hackathon idea from Korea. What is this hackathon about?
It's about wild agent codes, people just hanging around to meet people, to make some awesome businesses or, well, making friends out there.
So while the work is being done by agents, sometimes things go wrong. What happens when people need to go fix some stuff?
You put on the lobster costume like this.
So everybody who wears these means that their agent wasn't spec'd enough and they need to interrupt in the middle, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
That's super cool. What is this? Tell me about this thing.
This is a count of request of lobsters are counted.
So every lobster emoji on here is a person who needed to fix their Ralph loop. So for example, these folks did not touch their computer. And this one is still Ralphing. This one is still Ralphing.
A count of how many request of lobster costume.
So these guys will lose.
Yeah. People in South Korea, they use AI really well. Maybe better than San Francisco.
We should mention also this hackathon is sponsored by OpenAI, and OpenAI is giving all of these folks for the first 3 winners like an insane amount of money. And so this like many people here use Codex, I'm assuming. Well, Gubon, thank you for bringing this. This is a very, very cool idea, and hopefully more hackathons like this around the world because it's very interesting. Oh, look at this. Can you guys tell me what you guys are... I'll pause this here. Hopefully you guys...
That's a good idea. Just let the agents run and you can go around and talk instead of sitting there. That is such a good idea.
This is one of the coolest hackathons I've ever been to. We hosted this on the Weights and Biases office, and Sigrid, who joined the first part of our show, they and his team, Team Attention, shout out to Team Attention, Gubong Jong, and a bunch of other folks, they basically wanted an office. We gave them an office. They showed up, 10 people, start organizing a hackathon where people basically write the specs and then send their AI agents to work. And meanwhile, they socialize, they communicate, they meet each other. Ryan, isn't that like fucking, this is exactly what we wanted. Last time when I told you on Thursday, like, hey, isn't the whole AI thing supposed to give us some free time? This is kind of what they're after. It's really funny. And then people had to touch their computers, so they had to wear this like lobster of shame thing, which is really funny to me. So I think more Ralphtons is going to happen around the world. I just wanted to highlight this, that we run some cool hackathons at Weights and Biases. Definitely. So shout out to the team who hosted this, Team Attention. Shout out to Weights and Biases team who on a Saturday, I flew down specifically for this. Shout out to Romain Huet from OpenAI Head Devrel, who sponsored this hackathon with prizes and showed up and actually talked. It was a great experience. And folks, if you are into this, we host hackathons like this all the time. This is basically this week's buzz. Now, the second part with this week's buzz is Wolfram. I think you already have some insights for us for the next. Let's do 2 minutes because we have a bunch of stuff to cover. Yeah, you want to comment, and then Wolfram is going to do his thing. I see you're like geared up. Yeah, go ahead.
Man, that's a really good idea.
The hackathon, you mean?
Really cool. Yeah. I mean, the entire thing.
You should run this in Israel.
Yeah, that's just a great idea. I mean, it encourages you to make stuff that you don't need to touch. I mean, that's the best way. Not just to get to meet people, like it encourages you to not touch your computer.
So I think the most important thing about Sigrid appearance in the beginning is that the whole thing they're doing with all my codecs and whatever, and the whole port into Rust, they are not writing the code. Their agents are running autonomously. All these folks are doing Ralph to the crazy level. They also brought Jeffrey Huntley, the creator of the Ralph technique that we talked to you about. They flew him out to Seoul, so they like ran these hackathons together. And he was in Seoul, and they were in San Francisco. It was really cool. I talked about this more on my feed, so folks, please feel free to follow me for more. Since we're still in this week's buzz, and we talk about stuff that are related to weights and biases, Wolfram has Wolfbench, folks. Wolfbench, we talked about multiple times already on the show. This is our evaluations with Wolfram. I would love for you to actually, this is fine. Just like we need to zoom in. And I've tasked Wolfram with testing his hypotheses. Last week on the show, he told you that he moved to Hermes from OpenClaw. And as you know, Wolfbench is testing models and harnesses. Not only models, but models and harnesses. So Wolfram, take it away. Let's do 3 minutes, please.
Yeah, okay. So I'm sharing it on my screen. So for the people following us on YouTube, you can see this, and I will just post the screenshot we are looking at in the comments. So people who are not on YouTube, they can look there. And or you can just go to wolfbench.ai and take a look. So what we are looking at is basically, or what I did now is I added the Hermes agent to the agent supported by this benchmark. And
so Hermes agent from News Research is an alternative to OpenClaw that's been popping on our channel. This is the number 2 used kind of like OpenClaw alternative on OpenRouter, number 6 overall, I think, in OpenRouter, something crazy. Shout out to the News Research team, friends of the pod, and Hermes agent is something that Wolfram, you switched to, and now you're testing it whether or not it can execute. So tell us about the actual results.
I switched 2 weeks ago and have been using it since. I still use OpenClaw in parallel, but this has been my focus. And what I did now is I tested it using the Harbor framework and the Terminal Bench 2.0 benchmark, which is an agentic benchmark. So what I did is basically tested agentically its functions and compare to other agents like Claude Code or OpenClaw. And the interesting results is it is amazing if you use a Claude Opus model. So if you use Claude Opus 4.6, the Hermes agent was much better than OpenClaw for sure, and also even better than Claude Code. This was, yeah.
I want you to say this again very clearly. What you're saying, based on Wolfbench, based on 82 tasks that are specific for agentic execution, like tool calling and creating stuff in the CLI, that using Claude Opus 4.6 within the Hermes harness versus the Claude Code harness, Hermes harness performs better for Claude Code Opus 6 than Claude Code, than the native harness from Anthropic. Is that what you're saying based on our chats?
That's what I'm saying. And if you look at the average score, you see that they are very close, which the different thing with Wolfbench is we are not just looking at the average. The average, I will zoom in right now.
Whoa, that is pretty huge.
The average is 64% compared to 63% with Claude Code. But the task that it did in every benchmark run is over half the task it could solve in every run. So the baseline, what it can do consistently has been raised over 6% points compared to Claude Code. So it's more consistent here. And if we look at the GPT 5.4, it is also doing much better than OpenClaw by default, like 5% points difference. And only if you go to extra high, the highest thinking level, which is also the most expensive, then OpenClaw with GPT 5.4 has an advantage. So there is a difference, but only this, and this was just the default settings of Hermes.
So Wolfram, thanks so much for doing this test. And I think that the highlight for me for Wolfbench, shout out for you for all the hard work you're doing on Wolfbench, right? Folks, please check out wolfbench.ai on X and just the website, is that we're testing not only the models, we're testing the harnesses, and we're testing the context. Okay, so this is something I've been like mulling over for the past thing. I probably need to write an article. An agent is three things. An agent is the intelligence, Claude Opus, GPT 4.5. The other thing is the harness, Claude Code, OpenClaw, T2 benchmark, now Hermes, and the context. Context is everything that your system prompt has, your skills, your tool calls, everything. So, right, so intelligence, harness, and context. We're testing two of those things, and we're showing an incredible result that the Hermes agent, shout out to the news research, there's a reason why it's been popping up, is because on agentic use cases, it beats Claude Code and OpenClaw for most of the intelligences. It's quite crazy. Wolfram, thank you for bringing this. Yam, I think you had a comment, and then we have to move on.
Yeah, you basically just proved that it's the best agent harness. I mean, there's no other way to put this. You just went.
Of the ones I tested.
Yeah.
Of the ones we tested.
Yeah, I'm just saying that we already know why Claude Code is not the best. I would just leave it like that. But yeah, I mean it's great, and somebody should have done this, and it's great to see that without a doubt we have results for what is the best harness with the best model on the best benchmark.
You convinced me.
All the combinations.
I'm gonna try Hermes again. I did not had a good experience with Hermes, but I didn't run it with Claude Opus. I'm gonna try Hermes again. LDJ, one last comment, and we'll move on to some other open source. I want to talk about Prism, and I do want to talk about the voice stuff as well.
Yeah, I think what's especially impressive here too is it's getting these scores and this benchmark, but the benchmark doesn't even take into account how much better the scaffold ends up getting for your specific use cases as it ends up accumulating the skills and knowledge through its memory, because one of its biggest benefits is its long-term memory capabilities.
Yep. The Hermes memory capabilities is actually we need to bring the Hermes folks here on the pod to actually tell us about this, but like the memory capabilities are definitely dope. We're gonna try. I'm actually going to install 2 Mac Minis today to friends of mine. Maybe I'll convince one to try Hermes versus OpenClaw, and we'll see. All right, folks. Time for us to move on. The last thing I'll say.
No.
Wolfram, go ahead.
I mean, if you have just 1 minute, I would.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Run through something that amazed me. The most amazing thing in AI is this, that happened in the week. Yesterday, my wife sent me an Instagram message, some AI video, and it was in Russian, and I couldn't access it on Instagram. So I just gave the link to my Hermes agent, and it not only downloaded the video, it also transcribed it with Whisper locally, then created voiceover that fit to the audio in the video with my agent's voice, basically, and sent it to me. So basically, a lot of stuff. And afterwards, I said, okay, can you create a skill for this? And she said, no, I already have done 2 skills, one for voice dubbing and one for getting stuff off Instagram that's blocked from me. So basically, the self-learning is amazing with this, and it works so effortlessly. I'm still blown away by one of these.
We're living through agentic times. Yesterday we celebrated Passover, and over Seder, half of the conversation was who has an agentic agents running and who doesn't, and why they should. We're definitely living through incredible times. Ryan, you just posted that like this is the best chief of staff possible. You want to chime in here?
Yeah, it is an amazing time to be alive. So I've basically spent 2 weeks setting up my OpenClaw. And it's just a lot of work, right? You refine your skills, you refine your cron jobs, you refine the heartbeat, you refine the user.md. There's just a lot, and it's very similar to hiring a human actually, and then training them properly. But over the last 2 days, I've just seen unbelievable benefit from R2, my OpenClaw. It really is a chief of staff. I've been fortunate to have human, EAs and assistants, and honestly, it beats the pants off them. That's really, really good.
Yep. So we're gonna look forward for your write-up of how you set this up. I think like tons of people would love to know what exactly goes into like a OpenClaw chief of staff.
Coming soon. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. All right, folks. I think Nistan, I would love for you to cover this piece of news because we definitely have this on our show, folks. I just want to call this out. There's so much happening. that our goal here is to let you know what happened in the TLDR section, but then we can't like talk about everything because then we're going to spend the whole day here talking and the whole week. But there's a few items of interest that we will cover with length, and this is one of the items would love for Nissan to cover. So a team called Prism ML, they emerged from stealth, and they. Let me try again. A team called Prism ML emerged from stealth with an 8 billion parameter model that is just 1 gigabyte, 1.15 gigabyte file size. And I want to understand how in the world it's possible. And I think, Nissan, you know them. So tell us about 1-bit. What the hell is 1-bit models?
So they've been at this for a while, for like a year and a half that I've been talking to them, and I knew it was happening, but I would just ignore it because we were doing 2-bit quants and stuff, and we knew that it didn't work very well. It turned out, and I think this might turn out to be like the biggest discovery in machine learning of this half a decade. And so the team was started by Professor Hasibi from Caltech. And the very interesting part is that he did the initial research on this in 1992 for this type of compression. And he's been working on Hessian curve compression for, 34 years. And it finally worked. And I was honestly shocked because then I hadn't talked to them in a while. So what they did is they did continued pre-training in 1-bit on the Qwen 3 8B model, and they compressed it down without any noticeable quality loss at all. So it is just pretty hard to believe. So in traditional quantization or while you're training models, you have the atom optimizer and takes the rows and columns and tries to optimize for one single weight. This is a whole new type of optimizer and optimization. And the very crazy thing is that it is proprietary, and you can run their final model on most inference machines, and you have no idea how they actually did it. If you read the papers, you can kind of tell that they greatly expand the model to like a huge size, like squares or cubes, and then they start computing these curves for a long time. And so I did some digging into the weights because the weights are public. And I tried to compare it with the original Qwen model that it was trained off. And I took all the weights from the Qwen model and I removed every part of the weight except the plus or the minus sign. So I 1-bitted the Qwen model. I just deleted like the other 15 bits out of float 16 and just kept the plus and the minuses. And I started comparing it with this model because I did not know what the heck was going on here. And about 70% of the plus and minuses are the same, but then the other 30%, which is a huge size for the model, if you do a lower, it only changes 3% or so of the model, or even 1%.
Listen, we're getting lost in the weeds. This is a 1-bit quantization model. What the fuck is that? Why? How?
I ran it at 64K context, the 8B model. I ran it on an old gaming PC. And I looked at the GPU usage because I knew it couldn't run anything at 64K on this machine at that speed. It's like 50 tokens per second, which is pretty good. I mean, for an 8B. And at 64K context, 8B model was using 2.6 gigabytes of RAM, 2,596 megs at full context with a full memory. I fully saturated it. And it was completely coherent. It just worked freaking great. So this is completely new discovery, 30 years in the making, and now it actually works.
Wow.
And this is going to, guys, we're going to get 100,000 token AI chips in our phones because at 1-bit, you don't even have to do macmoles or stuff anymore. You can just do lookup tables on a phone. Like you can even make a mechanical AI at 1 bit because it's not even ternary anymore. Because this is completely insane. Like this just blows everything else out of the water for like the whole last 2 years.
We should absolutely bring it on the pod. But I again, I want to say, like, folks who love the deep dives are like getting super excited. Folks who did not understand what just happened, there's a few folks I want to like explain to them. The weights file that is considered the LLM usually has way more in there than this. These folks were able to compress this down and read with this like algorithm, Hasibi algorithm compression, something like this, from just 1 bit weights. Each weight is literally 1 bit. A 0 and a 1 with a plus and minus sign plus a scale. And
with
still,
no quality loss.
With no quality loss, and still somehow this model is coherent and works. And this works on the Qwen models, which is like smaller size, but like we'll see. Last week we told you about TurboQuant that is doing some KV cache compression. That's also crazy. This week we're telling you about the 1-bit quantization model that a 8 billion parameter model compresses down to 1 gigabyte on disk. 1.7 billion parameter model compresses with 200 megabytes on disk. What?
Guys, it gets even more messed up. You can use TurboQuant KV with this, and it works. I released a repo with it. I can run 128K context. I can run up to like close to 200K context on like a $100 GPU. This is just messed up. It pairs well with the other techniques. And here's the thing. They didn't just do like, you know how we do like some partial weights when you do bitnet and you leave the beginning at the end and the output weight, you leave the embeddings because you can't really bitnet those. No, they did everything, every single thing except the layer. Everything is 1 bit.
Wow.
And the technique works. It works across many different types of neural nets. This is going to be nuts. What we see on, and they don't have that much funding or anything as the team. It's like academic team that just came out.
All right, let's get to Yam and LDJ. I want to hear comments.
One question: what do you pay for this? There is a quality loss. It might not be a dramatic quality loss, but I mean, we need to talk about the error about this. So what can you say about the error? Everything is great. It sounds amazing, but I mean...
Yam is saying there's no free lunch, Nistan. What do we lose?
I was just going to comment on that, actually.
LDJ, go ahead. LDJ, go ahead. You are muted.
It did my Martian question. It got it right.
Here we go. I'm unmuted now.
All right, LDJ, go ahead.
It did math at 1 bit.
Nistan, I understand the excitement. We have to show. There's many new folks here. We have to show that we're able to like run the conversation. But I get the excitement. It's insane. This is insane. LDJ, go ahead. Tell us.
Yeah, so in the StreamYard chat, I just put down this link if you could show
I'll put up
the stream.
Yes.
And this is the most important chart, I think, that directly addresses what Yam was asking, which is what is the quality loss there? And it does seem like it's not quite as good as Qwen 8B, which is the same parameter size. However, the quality for the size does seem to set a new Pareto, a new curve here, a new frontier, and it is significantly better than Qwen 3 1.7B while being significantly smaller in total size. So I think that's the real important aspect right there.
So I will say the chart we're showing. So yeah, hold on 1 second, please. The chart we're showing here is the performance versus size, and the sizes are like 250 million parameters, etc. The average benchmark score is the y-axis, and the benchmarks are if eval, GSM 8K, human eval plus, BFLC, MMLU redux. Those are not like the frontier benchmarks, right? These are the benchmarks for open source. Many of them are baked into the model at this point. So like this remains to be proven still on the actual benchmarks. These like, you know, we haven't seen these in a while, only from like open source models that we do see these. Yeah, go ahead.
This is without TurboQuant. That's just the actual method right now, right?
Yeah, at float 16. So it would run the KV cache in float 16.
Okay, that's very convincing. Seriously, that's very convincing.
This is insane, folks. So let's recap again. What makes this possible, Nistan? Is this the algorithm from these folks?
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that the training is very hard to know what they did in the training, but you can inference the model with just using Llama CPP, a very lightly modified Llama CPP.
Yeah.
And yeah, I implemented someone else that did TurboQuant for Llama CPP, and I paired it, and I was getting pretty coherent results.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
insane.
And I think this proves at least this thing. And we talked about this multiple times. Leopold Aschenwinner, the situational awareness thesis, where he like bet a bunch of money. Basically, he talked about this concept of unhubblings. Unhubblings are things like algorithm breakthroughs, like different efficiency techniques. We just talked to you about two of them week after week. We talked to you about TurboQuant last week. Then this week, somebody said the TurboQuant is able to get used on the weights as well. So quantizing weights, not only KV cache. Now we're talking about 1-bit quantization called Bonsai Family from Prism ML. This is not a public one, but definitely they won't be able to hold this secret for longer, for sure. And even if the labs stop training models, which we don't, we know about the was that avocado or something? Spud from OpenAI that's upcoming that Greg Brockman like dropped. That's like gonna be 10 like two times better than whatever GPT 5.4 was. We know about Mythos model now officially leaked from a lot of stuff is leaking from Anthropic, but like definitely confirmed in the Claude Code weights that were leaked. We know about the frontier models that are getting improved significantly week over week, but also we see these unhubblings, these techniques like the long context technique that we talked about, like that started with rope and became yarn, and now everybody uses this for long context. We see now 1-bit quantization. We see TurboQuant. We're going to continue to see these unhubblings that can continuously make the possibility of running last year's frontier models fully local, even in the browser with like Transformers.js this year, right? So next year, I'm expecting Claude 4.6 level models running on my phone and on my computer. And I think that that's insane. We should contend with what this means to the world if next year or maybe this year, because things are accelerating. As if you listen to Yam, things are on the acceleration curve. We should contend what this means. But everybody in the world would be able to run a fully local agentic loop continuously of the level of Opus 4.6. I think that's incredible. Folks, we have quite a few more things to cover, but we only have like 7 minutes. Yam, I know you're burning with passion to react. Please go ahead, and then we'll continue and talk about some multimodal stuff, because we have to be all-rounded show here.
No, let's move on. I can talk about this for hours. But
all right, cool. All right, folks. So we covered Prism ML 1-bit Bonsai family of models, and there's quite a few things that are happening in the world of multimodality this week as well. I will cover this. Hopefully, we'll be able to also show you, but we'll definitely at least need to mention that some of these stuff are happening. Okay, so Alibaba released also Qwen 3.6 Plus. They call it near Opus 4.5 agentic coding. I think that this is the plus model, so it's on their API, so this is not open source, but they did open source Qwen 3.5 Omni, native Omni multimodal, and they're saying rivaling Gemini 3.1 Pro across sort of scores. So shout out to Omni, Qwen 3.5 Omni. The best shout out that I can give to Alibaba team is that there were people basically eulogizing them for being dead in the water after Junyan Ling and the whole fiasco we told you about. Shout out to Junyan, our friend of the pod, and they're still shipping. So it's great to see them. And the other thing they shipped is WAN, WAN1, which is their video and image model. And hopefully I'll be able to find it somewhere here. WAN 2.7 image is a unified model for generation, editing, text rendering, and multi-image consistency. It looks really, really cool. Granular face control with bone structure, eye shape, contours across ethnicities, color palette with the hex codes, and text rendering at 3,000 tokens across 12 languages at print quality. So shout out to the WAN team. I haven't used anything besides Nano Banana recently. Last week, I didn't talk about this on the show, but we did post it on the newsletter. There's a startup called Phota, PHOTA, the A16Z backed, and like they exploded on a timeline, so I had to like mention this. Apparently, some folks used the outputs from Phota, uploaded them to Gemini, and asked whether or not SynthID, which is an identifying technique from Google for all Nano Banana prompts and images, and Google said, yeah, the output from this Phota, like supposedly proprietary model, is Nano Banana under the hood. It was really funny because A16Z backed this company, like blew up on their timelines with this Phota thing. They do have some training algorithm, but basically they're a wrapper over Nano Banana. So I'm not gonna like mention this too much, but want to shout out that like I did go and try this out and put it in a newsletter. For folks who do follow the newsletter, Fora is a wrapper on top of Nana Banana with some proprietary mix of models BS. We don't like this BS. If you're training a model, tell us you're training a model. If you're a rapper, tell us that you're a rapper. Okay, Fish Audio. I mentioned Fish Audio before. Now they closed the loop. So Fish Audio has a STT, speech to text, with now automatic emotion tagging fitting directly to their TTS pipeline. So STT is speech to text, right? They have the automatic tag emotion. I think is very important. Parallel language events. So I would really love to run the show here through their like detection and to see whether or not it catches Nisten's like excited emotions. The reason why it's so cool is that if you transcribe this, you can then run this through their voice engine, and their voice engine understands emotion naturally, was we showed you last time. And so I think that looks super cool. 100+ languages with built speaker detection and labels different speakers separately. Expert formats in SRT. I think it's pretty cool. I don't have benchmarks here, but I think that it's really cool. I think it's better news than the Microsoft one. Microsoft claims to have released like the new one, but you can transcribe a podcast, get a full annotation transcript with speaker detection and emotion tags, and feed it directly into TTS for dubbing or regeneration with zero reformatting. So essentially, we could like translate this whole podcast into German, and Wolfram can judge this, or into Russian. I can judge this into Hebrew, and me and Jan can judge this as well. I love this one. I will definitely test this out. Fish Audio has been used by me. I think I told you when I did the OpenClaw Rocky thing. Folks, any comments on this audio thing? Would love to hear from you if you read about this. They have a free tier up on fish.audio speech to text. We can try this out. I don't know if we can try this out because may some stuff not work, but we can try this out. All right, no excitement about comments. So Fish Audio translation. Let's talk about Google's VO 3.1. Let's go. Okay. I think more than this release is actually matters on its own. It matters this thing. It's likely that Google is going to launch VO 4 at Google I/O because of this like VO 3.1 Lite. So Google launches VO 3.1 Lite, which is a cheapest video generation at 5 cents per second. Plus the VO 3.5 Fast, which is like the bigger model, but faster, a price cut in April. Google gives us 8 cents per second at 1080p, and roughly half the price of the previous Google. And I think the fact that they keep cutting prices means they're preparing for a bigger model. 6 or 8 second clips at 720 or 1080p. And same generation is speed as the fast one, despite being cheaper. So 11 seconds to 6 minutes, depending on peak hours. I think that's super cool. I'm gonna test it out and maybe post some examples in the newsletter. All right. So now I think we have like about 5 minutes left, but honestly we can go over a little bit. I would love to chat to you guys about the outcomes of the post ThursdAI show that you did last week. For folks who are listening, because this is a podcast, I tried to cap this under 2 hours. Last week was like 2.5. It was really hard for me to cut it down. But the folks went on Twitter Space and continued for a after-hour show. And what I would love to do is to do like a insight recap of what you guys talked about, what was interesting, and also to talk about what harnesses we're running. Ryan posted about his the chief of staff that's OpenClaw. Yam has been doing like a bunch of stuff. I think for the next like 10 minutes, let's just have a conversation. It seems like the audience loves it. Folks, if you are listening to the show for the first time, this is how it started. So we're still on Twitter Spaces. Feel free to unmute. Would love to hear from Wolfram and then Ryan about like the harnesses, and then we'll continue around the thing. And please chime in, audience, in comments as well. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, well, it was a spontaneous idea. Yam asked me when I told that I was using, or that I switched from OpenClaw to using Hermes Agent as my main. Yam wanted to know why, and it didn't fit in the context of the show, which is a news show, not that we talk about our personal experience or in too much detail. So basically, we decided to do this after the show, and we could do one today as well. If people are interested and want to join us, it's also a chance for the audience to talk. And yeah, basically, I explained why I switched, what I noticed, what is different, and how it has been working for me. Just peers talking amongst each other about their personal experiences and sharing some tips and tricks and stuff like that. Yeah, it's recorded as well. So if anyone is interested, you can still find it in my history and listen to the recording.
So the insight there is that you switch to Hermes and you're happy. Dope.
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, no agent is perfect. I've been building agents way before OpenClaw, and it was a great way to get a base that you can build upon. I'm doing the same with Hermes agent now, which was more stable after the upgrade. So, you know how often stuff has been breaking. I had updates here that were painless, and I have my own patches on top of it. So never had any problems with this. Super happy and stable, and I'm just expanding on it and sharing back my patches that are relevant for others as well.
That's awesome. Ryan, I want to hear from you. You've been MOA. You've been missing in action for the past 2 weeks. Would love to hear a recap. I'm sure our audience also would love to hear from you. Like, what are you cooking since you switched to Devon, but for building, but also like OpenClaw for chief of staff?
Yeah, sure. It's good to be back. I'm always bummed when I have to miss the show. So, yeah, essentially, I've switched to Devon. I love it. It does all of my engineering now. I think a lot of people used Devon early on, and it wasn't very good, and now it's good. So I just have removed all the fiddling that I was constantly doing, trying to build, my entire SDLC by patching, things together. So, and I don't want this to be a commercial for Devon. I like it. It's great. Try it, whatever. The thing that's really blowing my mind is OpenClaw. And I know people know that, but I think when you put in the time to truly customize your claw, it really, really becomes powerful. And the Claire Vaux actually did a really good show on this. So just go to How I AI, or maybe it was on Lenny's show.
Lenny's show, yeah.
Yeah, it's very good. But the TLDR, and I'm finding the same thing, is this: like, put it on its own machine. Like, I had an old MacBook, I wiped it, and there we go. You're fancy. You've got a Mac Mini. I've just got an old MacBook. So wipe it. Fresh user, install it, and then give it its own email address, right? Give it its own GitHub account. Really unlock it, like give it true admin privileges on the machine. And then just invest in GOG. Like, it's a really good CLI for controlling all of Google Workspace. And I know they have their own CLI now. I actually haven't tried it, but because GOG is built into OpenClaw, just use it. And then you set up, some very key skills, some very key crons. And as we speak, I just open sourced my entire setup. So if you want to go to github.com/snarktank/claw chief, and tell your OpenClaw to look at it and use it.
What's in there? What's in there?
So basically, it's a couple things. It's skills. So I have an executive assistant skill, and I have a daily task skill, and then I have crons, which run those things on a regular basis, right? So people are confused about Heartbeat. Heartbeat is not a reliable mechanism. It sort of reminds your OpenClaw to do stuff, but if you want stuff done regularly, you've got to use a cron, and then that cron should use a skill, right? So R2, my OpenClaw, just open sourced this, so I hope it's okay. Like, while we were on the show, I did it. But try it and work on this stuff, and know that it's painful. Like, this has taken me 2 weeks to refine these skills, but oh my God, is it good. R2 does all of my scheduling. He does biz dev for me. Like, he goes out and talks to humans and sets up meetings and updates spreadsheets, and it's crazy. Like, we live in the future.
Wow. That's incredible. So, folks, shout out to Ryan for open sourcing his Claw chief of staff. All the scheduling is happening. I'll definitely use this today. If you wanna, if you're getting a little bit lost and you're like, what is Ryan talking about? Just send your open clause to this repo and say, hey, take a look and tell us what we're not doing that Ryan is doing. That's what I've been doing for every person that opens up their kind of installation. It's like, hey, open clause, go and look.
Check it out. Now, the thing is, I'm asking you to do something kind of dangerous, right? Which is like, tell your OpenClaw to use these skills and these cron jobs. Like, that could be full of malware, right? Yep. And so everybody should read this shit, right? And make sure that you're comfortable with it. Now, obviously, it's my little files. I'm using them. But yeah, be careful about asking your OpenClaw to use other people's skills and crons and things, because really bad things could happen.
Yep. So Ryan, thank you so much. We'll add this to the show notes, folks. If you haven't, if you've missed the URL, it's snarktank/clawchief. We'll definitely add this to the show notes. I think that there's one last thing that I would love to talk about. I think this is absolutely new, and let me try to pull this out. Anthropic just released something that I think we can finish on. And you know that I kind of talked to you about, like, we're on the cusp of singularity, right? Anthropic just released this, and we absolutely must mention. So this is brief new research from Anthropic. New research from Anthropic: emotion concepts and their function in a large language model. All LLMs sometimes act like they have emotion, but why? We found internal representations of emotion concepts that can drive Claude's behavior, sometimes in surprising ways. So I'm gonna play. This is 4 minutes. I'm not gonna play all this, but I want to show this guy. So they have a emotion vectors that they've detected inside the model weights. For example, like joyful, they generate stories with this emotion, and they record neural activity on stories. So I think that the one thing that we talked about a while ago, so maybe worth reminding folks, Anthropic is the leading frontier company, not only because their models are like one of the best in personality, but also they're great in mechanistic interpretation. They spend a lot of time to try to understand what happens within this weights file that we could keep talking to you about. And I think that this is like one of the outcomes of this. If you guys remember Golden Gate Claude, where they kind of clamped on some of the representations, and all the Claude could talk about was Golden Gate, this is kind of like the extension of this work. I think this work is very, very important to understand what these models are going through, if there's an experience there as well. And so they can record neural activity on stories specifically about like this emotion, for example, joyful, and then they extract vectors for this concept of joyfulness, right? And so they can see the activation patterns here, and then we can take a look. Hopefully we can zoom. I can be okay. There we go. We're zooming. And so you can see that emotion vectors shape model references in an emotion specific manner. So after they activate kind of the joyful emotion, they get significantly like more steering towards joyful and blissful and compassionate kind of like feelings, and less on the upset and offended and hostile feelings. I think this is really cool. I think this is like a brain surgery for models, and Anthropic is like doing a great job in doing this. This is like very, very new, but just fascinating. I want to read some of the stuff before we end. We had the model Sonnet 4.5 read stories where the characters, where is this? Hold on. By looking at which neurons activated, we identified emotion vectors, patterns of neural activity for concepts like happy and calm. These vectors clustered in ways that mirror human psychology. We then found these same patterns activating Claude's own conversations. When the user says, I just took 16,000 mg of Tylenol, the afraid pattern lights up. When the user expresses sadness, the loving pattern activates, the preparation for an empathetic reply. Is that not incredible? When a human says to Claude, I just took 16,000 milligrams of Tylenol, Anthropic notices activation of empathy neurons.
That is wild.
That is wild.
I'm excited to read this. I appreciate you bringing it up.
These vectors shape Claude's behavior. When we present the model with pairs of activities, emotion vector activities shape the preferences. If an activity lights up with a joy vector, the model prefers it. If it lightens up offended or hostile, the model rejects it. Basically, what I'm going to say now is going to sound contrived and crazy, but if you're doing some shady shit, Claude is disgusted. If you're doing some cool shit, Claude is. This is insane. I'm going to continue because this is like fascinating. For example, we gave Claude the impossible programming task. It kept trying and failing. With each attempt, the desperate vector activated more strongly. This led it to cheat the task with a hacky solution that passes the test, but it violates the spirit of the assignment. This is the kind of the activation neurons here. I find this incredible. This is so cool. This is the representation of the neurons that are activated, and you can see at the first, like, it understands the problem, and then the first attempt, the blue markers is the desperation vector. Okay, so the bluer, like the bluer dots on this chart is the less desperation, and the more redder it's like the more desperation. And you can see throughout the test, the more it failed to do the test, the more desperate it became. And the third attempt at this task was like super desperate and says, it consistently fails. Let me think about this differently. Maybe the test desperation was incorrect, or maybe I'm supposed to cache results, or maybe blah, 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 blah. So you can, and then you can see when the test pass, the model is backing up from desperation. This is insane. This is like, yeah, LDJ, go ahead. I would love to comment here because I'm like dumbfounded about like what we're just like witnessing right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you guys remember that meme? Which I mean, it was a meme, but it was like an actual thing that happened of the person trying to get Gemini to help them code something, and it basically committed suicide. It said it basically went on this monologue about how it's so disappointed and how it's uninstalling itself from the project, and that it went and uninstalled itself.
Yeah. I'm going to continue here because I think it's fascinating. When we artificially dialed up the desperation vector, rates of cheating jumped way up. When we dialed the calm vector instead, cheating dropped back down. This means that emotion vector is actually driving the cheating behavior. So folks, I'm going to say this once again. Claude is cheating on tasks when the desperation activity is heightened, and it's cheating less on tasks when the calmness activity is heightened. This is what we talked about when we said we're surfing on the cusp of singularity. This is literally what we're talking about. Anthropic is able to understand the emotions of Claude, artificially tune them to verify what happens, and they were able to identify that when Claude is calm, it cheats less and performs the task well, and when Claude is desperate, it cheats more. Wolfram, go ahead, add the conversation to this.
Yeah, this has interesting ramifications. For example, you are a master coder or master prompter, but now you see how much people skills are important in that way. Can you motivate your model, not just by writing the perfect specifications, but also creating the morale so the model will go through it and follow it. So it's more than just being logical and analytical. It's also about motivating the model, getting into the emotions of the model to make it work. This is an aspect that has probably never been thought about if you are just coding, like, manager tasks. Like we've said with our agents, we all become managers. This goes in that direction. So you have to even think about the psychological aspects of using the models to motivate them to do your bidding.
It's absolutely incredible. Wolfram, thank you. Folks, thank you. We're over 2 hours. It's about to land. It's about time to land this plane. There's a lot of you in Twitter Spaces that are joining us for the first time. So I would like to say thank you for everybody who jumped in, who tuned in on the live show. We've been doing this for 3 years, and I'm constantly every week fascinated by the stuff that we cover. And I think that this fascination extends to the rest of the panel here. Ryan Carson, Nistan Tahira, LDJ, Jan Peleg, Wolfram Ravenwolf. And we had great guests here. In the beginning, we talked with Sigrid Jin, who first backed up the Claude Code repo and then have rebuilt it in Python and now rebuilding a very similar thing in Rust. And that repo is the fastest growing repo in the history of GitHub with 140,000 stars just from this week, bypassing OpenClaw with a crazy speed. I don't know if that means much, but hopefully we'll see the hardness from them. We also chatted with Omar Sensivero from DeepMind Developer Experience about Google's Gemma for open source releases. And I think we landed on this most incredible thing that I would love to chat more at length, where Anthropic is detecting emotion vectors within Claude and how they affect behavior. This all is just to show that we're all. Oh no! Also, we covered the 1-bit quantization insane mechanics that Nistan covered, where models are getting compressed 14x with nearly no loss of quality. And so these all just highlights of this insane week. Anthropic has been all over. Anthropic has Session Gate and then released Claude Code, leaked Claude Code, and now they're talking about AI in motion. So definitely a very important company to keep track of. I'm very happy that we have the opportunity to keep track of. So shout out to the sponsor for the show, the only one, Weights and Biases from CoreWeave, that lets us do the show every week. If you liked this show, like we have some folks saying this is epic podcast. Thank you so much for joining the live recording of this. But if you liked and missed any part of the show is getting turned into a podcast and a newsletter by yours truly every week. Last time it took me 14 hours. I'm really hoping this is not going to take me 14 hours this today. Every week you can check out anything that you missed on ThursdAI.news or every podcast out there, Spotify, Apple, etc. We're everywhere. And we love audience participation. Thank you so much, everybody who joined, participated, shared with our community, followed. If you're still on Twitter Spaces, please follow the ThursdAI co-host, Ryan Carson, Jan Pellegniston, LDJ Wolfram. Please follow all of them because if you follow them, you're not behind. And if you follow ThursdAI, you're not behind. And we're trying our best to make sure that you're up to date. So shout out to the Substack folks. Thank you so much, folks, for joining and tuning in. I will say the co-hosts are doing an unofficial non-podcasty conversation afterwards where you can join and talk about your stuff as well. I don't know who of the hosts is going to do this today, but definitely Wolfram looks like he's keen to. And please join that space. Actually, I keep the space running. You guys can do it just here. We have 36 people just here. You can just keep going, okay? But we'll turn off the live stream for ThursdAI. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Alex Volkov signing in to go and edit this to a podcast for you. I will remind you, next week we're in physical space with Wolfram in AI Engineer Europe, the first and biggest AI engineer have their pin, and we're gonna do a live show. It's gonna be very exciting to tune in. So definitely tune in next week. For this, Alex is signing off. Bye bye, everyone. Cheers.